Negative people don't know how to handle kindness. Everyone is just like, and then I'm just like smiling, like, yeah.
One of the hardest parts about putting yourself out there on social media is having to be okay with knowing that not everyone's going to like you no matter what you do. The moment you judge someone, it's shining a light on parts of yourself that you need to heal. Hello, my billion-dollar baby, and welcome back to today's episode. Today, I have on Carrie Berk, who has over 100 million engagements across social media. She's a best-selling author of over 21 books, and she's only 21 years old. So I'm so excited for this episode. It's going to be so good. Welcome, Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I know this is my first ever virtual podcast, so I'm so excited. I know it was a little bit of a hassle to set up, but I'm excited to have you on. You're all the way in New York, right?
Yes, I'm all the way in New York. And you're in LA?
Yeah, I'm in LA. So everyone has been here so far, but I'm like, I need to expand, so I'm happy you can come on.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to congratulate you. You're so young and you've built your career massively and are a best-selling author. So what age were you when you first started writing and published your first book?
I first started writing when I was 8 years old. I learned about realistic fiction in school, and I was just super interested in this idea that you could take real life themes and put them inside of fictional scenarios.
That's so cool.
I just came up with the idea for a fiction series, and at the time I was so young, and my mom is actually a writer, so I pitched the idea to her, and we turned out to write a mother-daughter book series. And it was about cupcakes, and it was super cute. So I wrote children's books for years, and that's kind of how I got my start in writing.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's so cool that your mom wrote books too. So you got to kind of learn from her and see how to even begin, because that was something I wanted to get into with you at some point. Is like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to write a book, but it feels like a huge thing and people don't even know where to start. So you first started writing, you wrote that book, and then was that really the moment you decided like, oh, this is something I'm super passionate about, that made you want to keep going?
Yeah, definitely. I think it sparked my passion for writing, of course, but over the years I really honed in on the type of writing that I love most, which is journalism. I want to report on different topics like fashion, beauty, food, fitness. I want to tell other people's stories. I have a passion for storytelling. I'm studying journalism in school right now. I want to work for a magazine. So that's my ultimate goal. My current book, though, my real life rom-com, kind of fell into my life organically. I'm not usually one to write about my own life, but during the pandemic, I felt really inspired, and I just started writing down these stories about my past for myself as a form of self-therapy. But it turned into something so much greater, because when you write about yourself and you write about things that are important to you, the best writing is true writing. That's what's going to resonate with other people.
So true. And so tell us why you feel like it's important for other girls to read books about other girls.
Oh, I love this question. I mean, I think specifically for my book, I direct this book towards, Gen Z females, because there are no books out there written by a teenager for teenagers about love and dating. And also, I think when it comes to just women in general, like, no one understands a woman like another woman. So, and like, who wants to read a book that's like feminist written by like a man? So I think my book is unique in that, I'm a young female, and I don't claim to know it all, but I'm sharing my unique experiences and hoping that people take what they will from that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you, was there a certain book when you were growing up that really inspired you?
Honestly, not really. Not a specific book. I think I was just super inspired by my mom. Mm-hmm. She's actually a celebrity ghostwriter. So she wrote memoirs for different celebrities. So completely different type of writing, but just super inspired by her passion and her determination. I would watch her stay up late for hours just working in her office behind closed doors, and just super inspired by her drive. So that's always been super inspiring to me.
I feel like what's really cool about like writing and reading is you like escape into a whole different world. So tell us about that for you when you're writing. Do you feel like you go into like a whole different world?
I think maybe for the fiction writing, you have more freedom and creativity. When I was writing about my own life recently, it's, my life. I'm reflecting on my experiences, and I learn a lot about myself through writing these experiences. I recalled all of these details and I paint a picture that, I remember because this was something I went through, and hopefully others that are reading it are going into that world. I like to say my real life rom-com is like the Sex and the City for Gen Z. So I'm hoping that people can kind of dive into that world, which is fun and flirty and has that young energy to it, but can also get emotional at times. And, you realize that heartbreak is hard and falling in love can be hard. So I hoped that in writing this book, I would take people through the emotional ups and downs of falling in love, and that they could kind of immerse themselves in that world while reading.
So when you wrote this rom-com that you created, what was the thing that really inspired you to turn it into a book? And what do you feel like is the most powerful part for girls that are reading it that they're going to really feel from going through this book?
I started writing my real life rom-com unofficially when I was 16. I had just gone through my first breakup and I didn't know how to cope. So I turned to the thing I'm most passionate about and I love most, which is writing. And I wrote down everything I remembered about the relationship because I didn't want to forget what it felt like to be in love. And I revisited that essay that I wrote, that diary entry, when I was in quarantine during the pandemic because I was lonely and I kind of wanted to remember that feeling. And I read it over and I started to remember more. So I started writing down more details, and I realized that so many of these experiences I had in love are, interesting and I don't want to forget. So I just started writing them down as much as I could remember, and it was helping me find a lot of closure with my past and all these different relationships and crushes and flings. And then one day I sent them to a friend because I wanted to submit one of them as an essay to a magazine, as a personal essay. And she told me that this was something so much greater than a personal essay. This was something that could turn into a book that could help a lot of people. Something that started off as something only for me, I realized could help so many Gen Z girls out there. Because like I said, there's no books written by a teenager for teenagers about love and dating. Most of the books out there are written by older experts, which is great, but people want to hear it as it is. They want to hear someone who's real and vulnerable, and someone who's not telling them what to do, how to date, who to date. I didn't want to lay out rules for dating. I didn't want to make it a how-to guide or a self-help book. This is my real life rom-com. This is my life. This is like YA nonfiction, and I just hope that people can take what they will from it. So in terms of the most powerful part of the book, I think it's something that I realized in writing it too. The last chapter is called The Journey to Self-Love, and I'm very open in it about my anxiety journey. And I wasn't planning on putting this part in the book at first, but it was so important to me because I realized that the only way I could love someone else is if I loved myself fully. And that includes, the parts of myself that I don't like as much, which includes my anxiety. So I wrote this essay about my anxiety and I stuck it at the end of the book, and I realized that it was a perfect way to end the book because you really can't love others until you love yourself. You hear that all the time. It's cliche, but it's so true. And to me, that ties in very closely with my anxiety journey. And I think maybe if a young girl reads that and hears my experiences, not just in dating, but also like in mental health and how that connects to my love life, I think that's something really powerful that can have a positive impact on someone.
That's so cool. I love that so much. And it's so true because when you're younger, around that age is like when you experience your first heartbreak. And I remember my first heartbreak, I think I was like 14. And it was like it felt like the end of my life. And I remember being like so torn apart because when you're younger, when you fall in love, you kind of just like free fall because you've never been hurt before. So you just don't expect, just like, you just freeing fall.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, when you get your first heartbreak, it's like, oh, you can't even, you don't even know
Yeah.
what to do. So
I
it's,
mean, relationships like that are very light and fun, but it doesn't mean that the heartbreak hurts any less. It might even hurt more than it does in the future because it catches you off guard. You've never felt anything like that. I describe it in my book as a form of grief almost. Like the only event I could connect that feeling to, was when a close friend died. I'd never felt anything of that weight before. And it took a very long time to get over. And I think that's important for people to read because you hear, oh, you're 16, you're, falling in love. Are you really in love? You're so young. It was never going to last. But that's not what people want to hear and need to hear. They need to hear their emotions validated because their emotions are valid. And like that's the only way they're going to learn from the experience is if they process their emotions fully and don't push them down and don't criticize how they're feeling. They need to accept how they're feeling and then move forward.
that's so true. And you're so right because even during those times for me, there really wasn't any books about it, like you're saying. And so I remember the only real thing my mom would tell me, like to help me, was books she read for adults to like help me through
Right.
feeling so
Yeah.
hurt. So that's so true that they don't really have enough to relate to or really understand the feelings they're having. And also like your first heartbreak like shapes you for sure in your relationships. And some people still like haven't healed from their heartbreaks and then they're carrying it into other relationships too. So like showing these young girls how to deal with it is so cool that you're doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. I think that first heartbreak lingers for a bit because it's your first love. It's a new feeling. It's exciting. And when you get your heart broken, at least for me, I found myself comparing everyone in the year after to my ex. And I was like, this is not going to be the same. I'm never going to fall in love again. And then you do. And you realize that it wasn't that deep all along.
Yeah. Now I'm curious, just doing so much research in the space I'm assuming that you've done. Um, do you how do you look at love a lot differently now? Like for an example, when you first, are falling in love, everything's like so magical, like time doesn't exist. It's just like everything is great. Um, have you shaped the way you look at being in love now?
Yeah, it's definitely much different. I think I had to go through everything I went through in order to get to this place. It started with what I mentioned before, which is, loving myself and realizing that, love isn't codependence. Love is when two individual souls come together and they shine even brighter and they lift each other up and challenge each other. And that word challenge, I want to emphasize, love isn't perfect. There's going to be conflict, there's going to be arguments, but it's about handling them maturely and communicating effectively that really makes a strong relationship. And that's something that I wasn't aware of until like I'm now in a relationship, and I feel like I've never felt anything like this before, and it's beautiful, but it's not perfect in the best way possible. Like you
Yeah.
can't go into a relationship and expect that, you two are going to be the exact same people and everything's going to be perfect and every moment you're going to feel on top of the world and, adrenaline. No, like that's not what it is. That's what it feels like when you're 16.
Yeah.
But I think now as a 21-year-old, I realize that it's all about balance. Yes, you can have those exciting moments of adrenaline, those honeymoon phase-esque moments, but that has to balance with moments that are a little more difficult, those difficult conversations and talking about your past, communicating about the parts of you that you don't like as much, the parts of them you don't like as much. There's so much more to it than I initially thought. But it's those more difficult parts that make a more emotionally rich relationship and make it more rewarding in the end.
So true. Wow, you're so cool. I can't believe how much you've done such like inner work and shaped yourself at such a young age. That's so cool.
I'm tired,
Like,
girl. I don't
wow.
know.
Because like you're speaking like girls that are like much older, you know? So
Thank you.
that's really cool to see that you have, done a lot of inner work and seen a lot about, the world and how it shapes you and stuff. Because I've seen that too. Like there was a time that the first time I realized that when you date someone, it's supposed to make you better was one guy that I dated. I like when I was like super happy. And then I started to be like, oh, I want to go work out. I want to eat healthy. Like I started being inspired to like be better because I was like,
Yeah, so it was
you almost
like,
want to be better with them. Like they're pushing, something comes out of you to be your best version. And so it's really cool.
I
And then
love
they
that. And then
challenge
they
you, like you
challenge.
said, to like, if you're, their best relationships are challenging you to like be better. So it's cool.
I have this quote in my book: they should challenge but not change you. They should push you to be a better person. They should inspire you to explore new things, but they shouldn't change the core of who you are. I think it's exciting if, the other person is different from you, and they should be, that they inspire you to do new things and you try new things together, but you should never feel like you're sacrificing who you are to be with another person.
100%. Okay, amazing. So I want to go into writing a book and how that all comes about. So you have this like, feeling that you want to write something and you get inspired. Like where do you even begin?
Wow, I think it's different for everybody. For me, I write when I feel inspired. It really can't be forced. I've had so many people come to me with ideas. Oh, you should write about this. This is so interesting. And I can't if I'm not inspired.
Certain people I've met along my journey that are like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And then they're like, I know what I'm thinking in my head, but I don't know how to like get it out there. So some people have like ghostwriters, right? That they like
Yes.
speak to and then they help them formulate it. But you like literally just write the whole thing.
Yeah, like I said, the best writing is true writing. It's the most authentic when it comes from you and it comes from your heart. I think when you're writing about yourself, at least for me, it's much easier to just get the words out there because these are all the words that are stirring in my head. And, I'm trying to make sense of all the nonsense in my head. And it's like I word vomit onto the paper and then I make it look pretty and I, tie it up in a little bow and I have a book.
Yeah. And when you were writing the fiction books, how was that for you? When was the last time you wrote a fiction? And then what was that process? Was it very similar?
I think the last one, maybe when I was 16, between the ages of 14 and 16. I have very bad memory.
No worries.
It was around that time. But that was a different process because I was younger and I was in high school, so I was very busy. And I think that process was different in that I was co-writing it with someone. So, I didn't, sit down and write the book as I did my real life rom-com. I would collaborate with my mom. So she would write a chapter, I would write a chapter. She would send me a chapter, I would edit the chapter. So it was more of a collaborative, like back and forth process.
That makes sense. Okay, so once you write the book, what happens from there? What do you do?
So usually, I don't want to say usually, most of the time when people are writing a book and they're trying to get it sold, they have, a sample chapter and a book proposal written and they submit that to their book agent, and then the book agent submits it to different publishers, and then you sign with a publisher and you get a book deal. For me, I wrote the whole book. I was a little bit crazy. I just had the whole book done, and I contacted my book agent from when I was 8 and basically said, hi, remember me? I wrote a book. Here it is. It's done. It's 250 pages. I want to publish it. And she was like, okay, let's do it. So she took my book out to different publishers. I actually did not submit the whole book to the publishers. I submitted sample chapter and the proposal, and I had to choose between different publishers that were interested. and then, you sign with them. You have to turn in a draft of the book. Luckily for me, I had it done, so I wasn't in a time crunch to get my book done. I kind of just did finishing touches and then sent it in. And then they come back with edits, like initial edits. Then the copy editor looks at it twice. I had my neighbor look at it. My neighbor's a lawyer, and she's used to like copy editing and kind of scanning for like errors. And then from there, you get like I don't know how to describe it. You get like a galley. So it's like printed on paper, like a big sheet of paper. Usually today you get digital galleys. They're online, but I like them like on the paper because that's what I got growing up, and I wanted to see my own galleys. And then you get an advanced reading copy, which looks exactly like the book. It looks exactly like this, but it has like a little stamp on it that says advanced reading copy, and that's what goes out to press.
Wow.
And it's like not completely done. It might have like an error or two, but it's the same. And then, this is the final copy, and that's it. That's the process.
When you're looking for an agent, like say someone writes a book and then they want to publish it, but how do they know no one's going to like take their book or their idea?
I think you just have to ask around, which agents are reputable, ask a friend who's written a book before. Mm-hmm. Just, don't reach out to random people. I think look to see, what books this agent has handled. Ask friends for advice who have done this before. Don't just cold call people. You can cold call if you have a list of, let's say, 10 reputable book agents. Mm-hmm. But you can't just, Google search book agent LA, book agent NYC, and scroll down and be like, oh, this one looks nice.
Yeah.
And call them. Like, you got to do your research.
And then so when you said you do like a draft chapter and you make like a little pitch deck proposal.
Yep. So a book proposal has the overview, like summary. You have a section about the audience. Who are you writing this book for? Some background. I included statistics in mine about, mental health and about like teenagers and falling in love. So some data that shows that the book is relevant. And what else did I include? My social media is obviously a big part of my life. So I included some social media stats. And then you include, I'm definitely forgetting things. You include the sample chapter at the end. And I think you're supposed to choose your strongest chapter, but everyone usually just chooses the first one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't think my first one was my strongest, but it explains the book the best, so I kind of put that in. Mm-hmm. I put my introduction and I put my sample chapter in there. And it's long. I think my proposal is like 40 pages or something.
Wow, that's awesome. And so now today you've published 21 books, is that correct?
22, including the new one.
Wow, you're amazing. That's awesome. You blow my mind. I can't believe how young you are. Like not many people have done that much in their lives. So one of the things here is like growing up, you found it hard to make friends and you grew up on social media. And so kind of tell us about that whole experience for you.
Yeah. So growing up in, elementary school, middle school, I really wasn't bullied too much, but I was a peer mediator in elementary school, meaning that I had to look for bullying in the schoolyard and I would have to step in and mediate and try to solve the problems.
Oh, wow. That's cool. No wonder you're so mature.
But I didn't experience it myself, I guess, until I was older in, the world of social media. I was bullied a little bit in high school, just, typical, you don't have a seat at the lunch table, like cliche bullying. I feel like I learned pretty fast, though, just to stand on my own 2 feet. I knew I was different from people. And social media, I think, helped a lot with that, because if people said something rude to me, I was like, and what are you doing? And, how are you making the most of your career? So, like, I was fine. I was kind of self-assured in that sense. But I was getting bullied mostly on social media during the pandemic. That's when I was starting to blow up online. And I feel like it comes with the territory of having a big platform. Like everyone can always find something else to pick on when it comes to like someone else. So I kind of knew that. But at the time, I was going through my own mental health struggles with anxiety and OCD. So getting bullied and getting, such cruel messages on TikTok was difficult for me because of that. Because I would take them more seriously. I take the comments more seriously than they should have been taken.
Mm-hmm.
What can be mean? There was one point where I got like a lot of death threats and they just kept coming in by like thousands one week, and I had to just shut off social media because I couldn't take it. And it's easy now to zoom out and see, these people are like, they don't know what they're talking about. They probably have something else going on in their own lives. Like to have the audacity to like give someone a death threat. And these were
Yeah.
like 8-year-old children too. Like they didn't know what they were saying probably.
Wow.
So I can see that now. But at the time I was going through a lot, and to hear those words just put me down. Definitely.
100%. Like that's probably one of the hardest parts about putting yourself out there on social media, is having to be okay with knowing that not everyone's going to like you no matter what you do. And like the more you try to make everyone like you, the more it actually hurts your growth, because not everyone wants to, like, you're not being authentic at that point because you're just trying to please everyone else. So you're not really going to, it's going to be hard for you to grow a platform if you're just trying to like be for everyone else. So you have to kind of just be like, okay, I need to be okay with not everyone liking me, which is really hard.
Exactly. I think the turning point for me, I have a chapter in my book about this, because I was on a reality show in 2022, and I was living in a house with other influencers for 2 weeks, and I was bullied a lot in that house. I was not liked very much, and all I wanted was to get out of there. But I stayed, and that experience taught me so much, because for the first time in my life, I learned how to stand up for myself, how to stand on my own 2 feet. Like, I'd been bullied before, I'd gotten hate messages, but I would just, let them kind of bounce off me and swallow them. In this case, I learned that, if someone really attacks your character, you can be a big girl, be mature about it, and, stand on your own 2 feet and say, like, that's not okay. And here's why.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I did. And I came home from that experience and I said, yeah, this was, one of the worst things I've ever gone through. This was miserable. This really affected my mental health poorly. But at the end of the day, I know that if someone says something rude to me in person, I don't go running and crying anymore. It really taught me, you can take a deep breath and just give them a smile and, move on.
Yeah, so true. I just saw something on social media. I think I reposted it on my story, but it said like the moment you judge someone, it's shining a light on parts of yourself that you need to heal, because you're
I
like,
love that.
yeah, you're looking at negativity within them, which is showing you need to heal in those areas. So it's kind of crazy.
It's so crazy. I'm literally thinking about a specific circumstance. Someone in the elevator in my new building, literally, like, I was on my phone, like, trying to deal with something, and she, like, walked straight into me, and she's like, get off your phone. And I was like, have a good day. And goodbye.
Have
And
a beautiful day. It's the best.
yeah, people don't know how to take kindness when they're so negative. Like, you see them taken aback. You see that on the reality show, too. I mean, everyone is just like, and then I'm just, like, smiling, like, yep, you
Yeah.
keep doing you. And then they're like, you're crazy. Like, why don't you respond? And I'm like, because I don't want to.
Yeah, because it's like I'm not going to put
just
my
don't
energy
respond.
towards it. It's cool.
Negative people don't know how to handle kindness.
Mm-hmm. So true. It's like, yeah, so true. But yeah, it's like the only way that feeding it is if you're negative back. So being positive, it's like a
Yeah, they're like, what is this feeling? I'm not familiar with the positivity.
yeah.
Yeah, and they just bounce back.
So and I know you're passionate about mental health too. So with young girls or any young men too that are looking to build their career and amass success in the way you have, what are some things that you would say to them to, help them develop themselves and be inspired to move forward and create a career at the level that you have?
I think it's most important for me to just constantly be exploring and be pushing yourself to try new things. I'm never satisfied. I write this book and I'm like, okay, what's next? I'm interested in taking my real life rom-com out for TV and film. Like, that's the next step, I think, for rom-com. It's never really over. So my biggest piece of advice would be just to continue pushing yourself, giving yourself new challenges, exploring who you are, and just, not staying still. I've always been a very determined person, not lazy, but important to be lazy sometimes, but I've always been like very go go go, and just trying to balance that. So I guess being determined, getting stuff done, trying not to procrastinate, but also giving yourself grace if you need a self-care day. And self-care looks different for everyone. Self-care doesn't necessarily mean a bubble bath and candles and a spa day. Self-care can just be fitting in a 20-minute nap. It can be going to the grocery store and getting groceries for the week. It's so simple. Like, there are so many things you can do for yourself to take care of yourself and your own life.
Sorry, there's an earthquake.
Oh,
That
we love
scared the
LA.
shit out of me. Oh my god, my heart just leapt. I'm like, is this real? And then I looked at your guys' faces.
I love living in LA.
Okay, so we're good. That was scary. Good. Sorry, the mirror was shaking too, so we were like, okay, we're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, self-care looks different for everyone. And, for me, my form of self-care is going out on a run. For someone else, it just might be sitting and doing nothing. You just have to listen to yourself and what you want. If you're achieving your goals, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be working 24/7. Like, it's all about a balance and taking care of yourself and nourishing your body and your mind so that you can work to the fullest ability when you're actually in work mode trying to get stuff done.
So true. So true. What would you say to someone that like it feels stuck and doesn't feel passionate about anything? Like, they're kind of just like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, and maybe judging themselves because they don't. And they're looking at all these people succeed on the internet and they're like, what am I supposed to do?
That's a great question. Be patient and try different things.
So true.
I don't believe that, they're not into anything. They're probably interested in something and they're just too scared to tap into it or to try. So I would say to be bold, make it your goal this year to take a risk and try something new. And if you really don't have anything you're passionate about, then, make a list of 5 different things this year that you want to try. Whether it's a new cuisine, a new workout class, if you always wanted to try writing, a new class at school you want to take. Like, there are so many ways to explore the world. You just have to be willing to do it. So be bold, be patient, and be explorative.
Amazing. That's so cool. I agree. Yeah, just trying new things is the first way to start, and just kind of having fun a little bit too. Like, I think people feel they're expecting what it's supposed to look like. So because of that, they're not actually having fun anymore trying things. They're like, I'm supposed to figure it out. I'm trying to find my passion. I need to like force myself into these situations rather than just being like, do I even enjoy this? Is this fun for me? And finding fun in what you're doing. And then as you're having fun, like, naturally allow yourself to look at it as potentially something more. So I agree.
I love that advice. Having fun and doing things that you genuinely enjoy and love. If you don't like doing something, well, I'm the first person that just like taps out. Maybe I give up too soon sometimes, but if I don't enjoy something, I'm like, peace out. I'm going to do what I love to do most.
Yeah, that's so true. I was going to tell you something too. When we chatted about you coming on to the podcast, something I've always wanted to do since I was little, so I always say I'm going to do it at some point in my life, is write a featured film. And what's interesting is I came up with one a while ago that I wrote a long time ago. I haven't completely like finished line by line, but I wrote the storyline. And then about like a year ago, I like woke up and I started singing this like song, and it's like this, I was like, It's a whole thing. But anyways, I started singing the song, and then it like led me to be like, oh, this could be a cute movie. And so I wrote this whole like very cute kids movie because I was just inspired one day about a bumblebee. And it's like this whole story, and it's really funny. So I made the whole thing, the whole storyline, everything just for fun. And then after that, everyone was like, that I talked to a few of my friends, and they're like, well, because I was like, how do you even go about like pitching this to someone? Because I imagine it as an animated movie. And then one of my friends was like, you should start it as a book because then that's way easier to do. And then if people like it, you can move forward. So at some point, I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah, you should go for it. Why not?
I never
Literally, why
pictured
not?
myself writing a children's book in my life, but I literally woke up dreaming about this thing that I wrote.
Go.
So it was just like for fun. But yeah, I want to send it to you at some point. So that would
Oh,
be cool.
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so there's something I like to do every time I'm finishing the podcast. Tell us what your favorite social media platform is and why.
Okay. It has changed.
Okay.
I spend the most time on TikTok because that's where most of my followers are, and I post a lot of content on there. I have the most fun on Instagram, and I think it's because Instagram has become so unfiltered now, which I love. And you post, photo dumps and fun parts of your day, and I have the most fun curating content for Instagram now.
Yeah, it's funny that it can kind of like teeter back because I agree. TikTok was like way better for a while, and then Instagram's like slowly becoming better.
I'm back. Yeah. Love both. I mean, both of them are really important parts of my life.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing I like to do is close your eyes and imagine where you're going to be in 3 years, and then let us know where that is. What will you have accomplished? Where will you be?
Hopefully working at a magazine and oh, my eyes are still closed. Okay. Hopefully working at a magazine, and hopefully I made some progress in making rom-com into a TV show or a movie.
I love that. I can see that for you for sure based off your success.
Success.
So tell everyone where they can find you. Where can they find the book?
Yeah, you can find me on all social media at Carrie Berk with an extra K at the end. And you can find my book. It's right here, my real life rom-com. It's sold on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, basically any bookstore. And I think you guys will love it. So check it out.
I'm so excited for you. Do you know I literally watch like still like young teen adult or young teen like rom-com stuff on TV all the time. It's like my favorite genre. It's hilarious. But I can literally see this for you having it turn into more. So I'm excited for you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
As always, thank you so much, my $1 billion baby, for listening to today's episode. You will find me each week on Tuesdays, and I'll be reading all your comments on the episode. Let me know what parts resonated with you the most and what topics you would like to hear next.